lot of people ask, what should I eat to be healthy? In this video, I'm going to share with you the things that I have learned after my 10 plus years of studying nutrition and where I'm at in my journey. Now, I just want to give a disclaimer right at the start that I am not a medical doctor. This is my own personal experience. And also, it's important to understand something called biodiversity. That means that just the same way that every single person looks different on the outside, every single person is different on the inside. Now, we don't understand this when we look at diets and fads and things, that just because something works for one person doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. So when I give you my advice, when I share with you this knowledge, try it, see if it works for you. And if it does, keep the parts that work, and the parts that don't, you can leave those. And just question everything. You are your own best guide. You know your body better than anybody else. Now, you can obviously get tests and things done to find out what foods are best suited for you if you want to do that. And I definitely do recommend you can go and get your blood profiles done, and you can see what kind of stuff works for you. But in this video, I'm just going to share what is working for me right now, and hopefully that will help you on your journey. The first thing we're going to cover is what should I eat? And then we're going to cover when should I eat it, because they're two very important questions. I like to think of your body as a vehicle. Imagine your body is your vehicle. It's like the best car ever made, right? It's so advanced. And the food that we give it is the fuel that you put in. And I talk about this a lot in my book, which is called Find Your Truth. So if you have a car, let's say you have a top of the range sports car and you put crap fuel in it, it's going to break. And this is what we do to our bodies day in, day out. Most people, and this was me for a lot of my life, filling our bodies with junk, and then this creates dis-ease, this creates illness, this creates injury. We need to be really conscious about what kind of fuel we put into our vehicle. So my favorite food in the world used to be steak. My favorite drink used to be beer. I would be getting takeaways from all the fast food places multiple times a day. I very rarely cooked. I was always eating out, eating junk food, and I was really overweight. I lost 3.5 stones, which is over 20 kgs in the past 3.5 years, almost 4 years now, since I started shifting the way that I treat my vehicle. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to be talking to you about research that I've done from bodybuilding. So I've been studying bodybuilding and sports nutrition since the age of 17 was when I started really getting into it. So that was 14 years ago. I'm going to share with you some works from a doctor called Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi talks a lot about the alkaline diets and has this nutrition guide to help you with what kind of foods to choose from. And there's also another amazing author called Arnold Ehret who does something called the Mucusless diet system. So I'll be sharing with you about all of that. Firstly, I just want to say, before I get into this, when people try and make a big drastic shift in their habits, often they face resistance. So I'm a public speaking trainer. I'm also a spiritual mentor. I help people overcome limiting beliefs and create better habits and get more success in all different areas, in health, in their personal lives, in their businesses. So I really know about how to help people break patterns. You have patterns with your foods right now. You have addictions to your foods right now. Things like caffeine, sugar, dairy, they're very addictive substances. Our body wants more and more and more and more. Dairy, actually, it's really, really interesting. It has a chemical compound in it called casein. So casein is a type of protein. And when you ingest casein, it releases the same type of chemicals in your body that you get when you take heroin, and they go into your body. It's received in the same way. It's obviously not as strong as heroin, but it works in a similar kind of way. So we wonder why my favorite thing used to be tubs of ice cream. I would just love it, especially when I was feeling down or low. I would go straight and have a whole tub of ice cream to myself, straight from the carton. This was my life for a long time, and I wondered why I was overweight, and I wondered why I wasn't super healthy. I really recommend something called a transition diet. Transitioning is where you slowly start to take away one thing and you replace it with something else. You transition, maybe you just, instead of going cold turkey and cutting everything out, I recommend something called the 80-20 principle. So 80% of the time, make great healthy choices. 20% of the time, you can be a bit more relaxed. This really helps people to stick with this because it's a process. Over the last 4 years now, I've been really transitioning and my transformation has been incredible. I really, really recommend it. So we're going to go deep now. Make sure you have a pen, paper, something to write with, because this is going to be absolute gold. And the great thing about this video I'm going to make now is I'm just going to condense everything I know into this really short video, rather than you having to go and spend 10 years plus learning this stuff and figuring it out. So first, let's talk about Dr. Sebi, because this was a big change in my life. I've tried so many different kinds of diet plans. I did the Atkins diet for a long time, which is where you hardly eat any carbs and it's mainly all proteins. So you're allowed to eat bacon, sausage, eggs, steak, as much as you want. No limit, but you just have to limit the amount of carbs that you have. And this puts your body into something called ketosis, which is really great for burning fat. So I've tried that diet plan. I've done high carbs. High carbs is where you want to really bulk up, so you're eating lots of pasta and rice. I've tried everything. I've tried raw vegan, where you just have completely raw foods, no cooked foods. I've tried fruitarian, where you just only eat fruits. Like, I've really experimented with it. And this is a great thing to do, is to experiment and find what works for you. But let's talk about Dr. Sebi, because this was a big change for me. He talks about something called the alkaline diet. What I've come to learn is that our body is a big chemical experiment, right? And the foods we eat, they change the chemistry of our body. Diseases and illnesses occur mainly in acidic environments. So the more acidic foods you eat and drink, the more likely you are to get ill. This is really important because things like fizzy drinks, alcohol, meat, dairy, nuts, they can be very acidic, and this can cause us to then create an environment that breeds illness. Once I started studying Dr. Sebi's nutritional plan, he gives you a list, a breakdown of foods, and I'll include a picture here for you. He includes a breakdown of foods that make your body more alkaline. And then I started really looking into this, and so many of the world's most successful people all do this. They do things to alkalize their body, and our food and the drinks that we take in are one of the fastest ways to do that. Now, Dr. Sebi also talks about something else as well. He talks about eating non-genetically modified foods. What does that mean? Many of the foods that we have today have been genetically modified for certain reasons, in the same way that many of the animals that we have today have been genetically modified for certain reasons. So we bred dogs to have certain characteristics. In the exact same way, we bred carrots to have certain characteristics. Many people know carrots now as long, straight, and orange, but that's not how carrots are in the wild. Carrots are curly and they're all sorts of different colors. Another one that we genetically modified is broccoli. So broccoli was actually created by mixing a plant with a flower, and we made them breed, and then that's why broccoli kind of looks like a tree, right? It's like flowery tree things, because we bred it that way. It doesn't actually exist in nature. Fascinating, isn't it? Kale. Kale used to be flat, but then we genetically modified it to be curly. So we've done all of these things. Now, what Dr. Sebi talks about is you want to minimize the amount of these genetically modified foods that you have because they aren't natural. And Dr. Sebi's diet plan is about eating as naturally as possible, as close to nature as possible. Things like broccoli, just as an example, it's quite difficult for our stomachs to digest, according to Dr. Sebi and his diet plan. And so it causes gas for people, it causes irritable bowel syndrome. We have that in the UK. You go to a doctor, if they don't know what's wrong with you and they don't know what to diagnose you with, they call it irritable bowel syndrome, which basically means I don't know what's wrong with you, but now I can give you medications. Because in order to give people medications in our medical system, you have to give them a diagnosis. So there's certain things that when you eat these genetically modified foods, Dr. Sebi found it actually causes inflammation in your body. It makes it difficult to digest. And so he really recommends steering towards natural foods. I'm just giving you some very quick background here. You can go and definitely research Dr. Sebi. There's so many videos, books, everything about him. The next person I want to talk to you about is someone called Arnold Ehret, who has written some amazing books. One of them is called the Mucusless Diet System. This was a game changer for me. What Arnold Ehret basically found is that disease in our body and illnesses are often caused by a buildup of mucus in our bodies. And the foods we eat create more or less mucus in our bodies. And there are actually certain foods that are completely mucusless. So they produce no mucus. And there are certain foods that produce lots of mucus in your body. Things that produce a lot of mucus in your body are meat, dairy, all grains or most grains like bread, pasta, rice is one of the worst, white potatoes, vegetables that are very starchy. So again, things like broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, very starchy vegetables when they're raw. When you cook them, it breaks down the starch and so they produce less mucus. But if you're eating carrots, I love carrots and hummus, but eating raw carrots is quite starchy and produces a lot of mucus in your body. And nuts as well, quite mucus producing. So the way that Arnold Ehret talks about it is if you want to promote health in your body, you need to reduce the amount of mucus that's in the body. And one of the fastest ways to do that is by stopping eating mucus producing foods. Does that make sense? I really recommend go check out the Mucusless Diet System as well. Now, I'm going to talk more about that later because there's a whole more to that, but I just want to give you a really brief background of where we're at. And in terms of the bodybuilding side of things, I've studied some of the world's top bodybuilders for years and what their diet is. And their diets tend to be very heavy in animal proteins, lots of eggs, lots of meat, lots of fish, lots of dairy, and also high in carbs, lots of pasta, lots of rice. And so you can see straight away the diet I was trying and does obviously make you big and does produce lots of muscle because you're eating a lot. It's very contradictory to what Dr. Sebi and Arnold Ehret are now saying, which is actually eating all that meat, all that dairy actually creates a lot of stress in your body. And a lot of bodybuilders and pro athletes and things that have heavy diets of consuming a lot of animal products and a lot of these carbs, they can often, even though they look healthy on the outside, what are they like on the inside? And that's a very important thing to consider. For me personally, I want to have good health on the inside as well. So in my book, I talk about something called optimizing your food. And I just want to share with you some points from my book about how you can optimize your food. And if you do these things, it will completely change your life. And so get ready. This is going to be super deep and let's go into it. One of the first things, really, really important, and we already touched on this a little bit. You need to understand that what works for other people might not necessarily work for you. So you need to become super conscious about everything that you put into or onto your body. What does being conscious mean? Conscious means doing it with awareness. a great thing to do is before you eat something, take a deep breath in and out and ask your body, do you want to eat this? And see how your body feels. See how your body reacts. Maybe you'll get a feeling. Maybe you'll get a knowingness. Maybe it will just go like, no, definitely I don't want to eat this. A lot of things as well with addictions is we do them without even knowing what's going on. And this is really, really fascinating because our gut, inside our gut, I have an amazing friend who's a microbiologist. She taught me this. Inside our gut, we have trillions of living organisms that all have their own consciousness, and they can make you do things. We also have parasites. Most people have parasites living inside them that are not good for them, and they live on things like sugar, processed sugar. So when you suddenly start reaching for cookies and eating them, it's automatic. Like you don't even think about it, right? It's like, oh wow, cool, I get it. And you go, and then you're feeding these bacteria that aren't supporting you, and you're feeding these parasites that aren't supporting you with this fuel. It's so quick. So by being conscious, by taking a breath before you eat something, do I really want this? Or when you go to a restaurant, have a look at the menu and just ask your body, what do you want today? Start to get to know your body, and it will tell you, you will feel when you consume food as well. See how you feel after you've eaten it. This also applies, by the way, to any like beauty products and things. If you're going to put beauty products on your skin absorbs them very quick. They go into your body. They become a part of you. Everything you consume becomes a part of you. You might have heard the saying that you are what you eat. And that's definitely true. You become what you eat. It literally makes you. But I like to take it a step further and say you are what you consume. So this is the things you eat, the things you put on your skin, the things you put in your mind, the things in your environment, who you surround yourself with, the energies. There's a lot to it. So definitely start becoming super conscious of what you put into or onto your body. Now, transitioning from eating primarily junk food and drinking a lot of alcohol like I did. I told you steak was my favorite food, beer was my favorite drink. Now I stopped eating meat and I stopped drinking alcohol. That's pretty crazy transformation for me because socially it's very accepted to go out, especially I was working in a big corporation. So it's the guys, you go for big steaks and you go to the pub and you have cold beer and it's just like life. For me to make that transition, it took a while. So the 80-20 principle is really great to start with. 80% of the time, healthy choices. 20% of the time, give yourself a bit of space and freedom. Now that's actually shifted for me now. I'm more of a 90-10. So 90% of the time, I make really healthy choices. 10% of the time, I'm a bit more relaxed in what I'll do. Just be kind to yourself. Like if you're making any kind of better choices, that's great. Like really, that is great. If you've watched this video to now, you're obviously ready to make a change in your life. So that is fantastic. So really, really well done for that. The next thing I want to share with you, and this is completely life-changing, but most people aren't aware of this. So get ready. Dr. Sebi talks about this a lot. Making sure to eat, whenever possible, organic and non-genetically modified products. We talked a little bit about genetically modified products before. So a lot of the crops that are grown nowadays are genetically modified. If you take corn, for example, there are companies that genetically modify the seeds so that they can exist in different kinds of conditions to make the crops bigger, to make them grow faster. We also do this with animals, by the way. We genetically modify a lot of the animals that we eat. So you can see pigs now that are massive. They are huge. Chickens now that are huge and their legs can't actually support their weight because they're bred to have so much meat on them. We've done the same thing with dogs. You see how you have all different shapes and sizes of dogs. It's something we've been doing for a long, long time. When you eat genetically modified products, it changes your genes, because the food you eat, the DNA of the food you eat becomes you. It makes up you. So when you're eating genetically modified foods, what a lot of people believe is this leads to more illnesses, injuries, diseases, things like cancers and stuff. They're massively on the rise for lots of different reasons. And one of the fastest ways that you can shift the chances of you getting those illnesses and injuries is by eating organic and non-genetically modified food products. Now, again, like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm a researcher. I love researching. And so there's loads of studies you can go and find where they talk about this. If you want to know about the genetically modified products one, go and look up the study that a farmer did of over 200 pigs over several years. He fed them genetically modified foods, and then he changed and stopped feeding them genetically modified foods. What he found was shocking. The amount of miscarriages went down massively. The amount of illnesses, injuries, cancers went down massively. Because what a lot of people don't know as well, my dad was a butcher. My mum and dad worked in a chicken factory. That's their background. Animals come in, let's say a pig or a cow, and they could have cancer. What a lot of butchers do is they just literally cut out the cancer, throw that away, and then they send the rest of the animal to be processed for food. We still eat it. They just cut out the cancer part, but cancer is in the blood, it's in the bones, it's in everything, right? And we still eat that, but they just cut out the visible parts. It's scary. So eating non-genetically modified products is really important if you want to take care of your health. What does organic mean? Oh, this is a whole different thing, right? So organic means that it's not genetically modified. It also means it is not sprayed in artificial chemicals, fertilizers. One of the things they do with plants and the seeds of the plants is they genetically modify them so that they can survive being sprayed with these chemicals. So there's a chemical, for example, called Roundup. Roundup is very toxic. It is very harmful to people. When they spray the fields, they wear full biohazard suits. They spray this on our food and it keeps away all like weeds and bugs and pests. The plants can now grow in this because they've been genetically modified to be immune to this particular pesticide, to this particular chemical compound. But it becomes a part of the food that we eat, and then we ingest that. And they did it's crazy, right? Cotton that our clothes come from. In India, when cotton was first introduced there, genetically modified cotton, okay? What they used to do before the genetically modified products is they would grow the cotton plant, pick the cotton, and then the animals would come and eat the cotton plants. When they did this with genetically modified cotton, they grew it, it grows faster, it's bigger, you get bigger yields, so great. They pick the cotton. When the animals went and ate the plants, the animals got sick and died. Just from eating the plants. Because that's how damaging these genetically modified products can be. So when you get something that is certified organic, that means it's not genetically modified. And there are still chemicals and things put on it. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But they reduce the amount of things that they can put on these organic crops. When you take, for example, a carrot or a tomato straight from the plant, it will go off within a few days, within a week. It won't be suitable for consumption anymore. That's normal. But obviously we have supermarkets and we have such a high demand for food, so they have to do certain things to our food. So they radiate the food to make it last longer. They put preservatives on it. And by eating organic, it doesn't mean it's completely free from these things, but it reduces the amount, and there are regulations about what things they can and can't use. And they use much more natural pesticides and fertilizers and things rather than these very toxic chemical ones. So it's super important, whenever you can, get organic and non-GMO. And a great way to do this is to go to your local markets. Find an organic market near you. Maybe you have to drive an hour to find one and you may need to go twice a week. You will get better deals at the organic markets. You'll know where your food is coming from. It won't be radiated, and then you can make healthier choices. I know this is a lot, right? But let's keep it really, really simple. Buy organic, non-genetically modified foods whenever possible. Always check the labels. Really check the labels. See, does this say organic? Does this say non-GMO? I was at my mother-in-law's house. She had this oil. They're Pakistani, so you have this oil, and they use a lot of that for cooking. And on the back, it said very clearly, made from genetically modified plants. So the oil that she'd been using for years was made from genetically modified plants. So we said no, and we threw it straight out. So there's something to be very conscious of. This next part is something that has been one of the biggest changes in my whole life. I know I've said that a lot, but all these things are so important. One of the fastest ways to improve your health for most people on the planet, I can't say all people, but I can say most people, is to eat a plant-powered diet. Now, like I said, steak used to be my favorite food, but now I eat plants, I eat fruits, I eat vegetables. Since I made that shift, my health has improved in every possible way. Every possible way. And I started watching documentaries about health because we have the internet now is so amazing. Like, they can't keep things secret anymore. So in my book, I talk a lot about the meat industry, the dairy industry. This is controversial for some of you who maybe never heard this before, but I really recommend go and watch a documentary called What the Health, or go and watch a documentary called The Game Changers, or go and watch a documentary called Forks Over Knives. I'll post the links for these below as well. Something I came to learn is that the meat industry and the dairy industry are two of the biggest industries in the world, and they have so much power. You see, I was always taught, and they teach this in schools and they teach this in hospitals, that milk helps you grow strong bones. Just one example. But this is actually an advertising campaign made by the milk industry, by the dairy industry. They made that campaign. It is completely made up. And science actually now proves that people who drink more milk actually have weaker bones, because the milk is very acidic. It's also very mucus forming, and it actually strips calcium from your bones instead of giving it to you. And there's reports and studies you can go and see where they show that the countries that have the highest dairy intake actually have the highest rates of injuries around their bones. It is insane. You have to be really conscious and aware of what marketing are people giving you. In the Game Changers movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger is in it. One of my idols growing up. He used to eat 3 chickens a day. He used to eat 15 eggs a day. And he now is vegan. He now only eats plant-based foods. He's made a complete shift. And he says the muscle he builds is stronger, less inflammation. A lot of bodybuilders, they die from heart disease because they're consuming so much fat, so much this. Really do your research into meat and dairy. Now that is a big shift for a lot of people, I know. But most people only eat meat because they think they have to. Once you know you don't have to, everything changes. There are vegan bodybuilders that have never eaten meat in their entire life, and they are huge. One of the world's strongest men, called Patrick Baboumian, is vegan. He's only eaten plants for the last 10 years, and he just broke a world record for strength. He's lifted the most weight a human has ever lifted, all just by eating plants. So a lot of Olympian athletes, they're all doing this now. Top tennis player in the world only eats plants. The Lewis Hamilton Formula One drivers, plant-based. Like people are really seeing the benefits of going to a plant-based diet. So you need to do your own research in this. I'll give you some very basic things about it though. Everything in the universe, everything in our universe is about vibration. You are a vibrational being. So the higher vibration of the food you eat, the higher the vibration you will become, because you become what you eat. So when you're eating things like fruits and vegetables that are organic and non-GMO, they're very high vibration foods. They make you feel great. Meat and dairy are very dense foods. There's a lot of suffering that goes on. If you haven't checked out like how your food is made, use YouTube, find out how food is made. Look up a thing called Dairy is Scary if you haven't seen that before. It's about how the dairy industry really works. In order for milk to be produced, a cow has to be pregnant. And so they keep cows pregnant their whole lives. They forcibly impregnate them. They then take the baby away from the mum when it's 1 day old, so it doesn't drink the milk because they need the milk for humans. It's crazy. So the mum cow is now traumatized. They get PTSD just like humans do. And everything is energy. This PTSD, this trauma comes into the milk, and then we drink it. And we wonder why people are so ill, and we wonder why we have so many mental illnesses, and these things keep increasing because we're consuming that energy, and energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. You might remember that from physics class. I'm a huge physics geek. I love science, quantum mechanics. So the energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So if you're drinking trauma, if you're eating trauma, where does that trauma energy go? It goes in you. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? And what happens with meat? You know, the animals can be grown in the nicest possible place, in a beautiful field. They can be grass-fed, which most aren't. Most animals are fed genetically modified soy or corn or maize. So then they get all these health illnesses and cancers and things, and then we eat them. But even if it is grown in the most amazing farm, still, just before it dies, it's sent to a slaughterhouse. It's hung upside down by its legs. It has its throat slit. This is what happens. And so what do you think happens just before it dies? It is traumatized. It is absolute fear energy. Releases these chemicals that go into the meat, and then we eat that. And there's no real way around that, because if you kill something, it's going to be afraid. The fear energy is going to go into the food, and then we're going to eat it. There's no way around it. And so that's what we consume. So it's just for you to start thinking about, what kind of energy are you putting into your vehicle? Is it high vibrational, alive, healthy energy, or is it death? Is it fear? Is it suffering? Is it trauma? Is it PTSD? Like, these are the things that I was doing most of my life. Since I stopped doing that, everything changed. I'm not asking you to make any decisions here and now, but this is just an inquiry for you to start thinking about it. There's also massive environmental aspects to switching from a meat-based diet. The meat industry is one of the biggest causes of deforestation in the world. There's a great documentary you can watch called Cowspiracy. Really, really good. Definitely recommend that. Life changer. Again, you'll see there's ethical consequences to what we eat. You know, I don't want to, for me to eat something because I like the taste of a burger or a steak, I don't want a creature to have to die for that. Everything we do creates karma. And so the karma of that is not great for me personally. Now, you might decide that you try going plant-based and that it doesn't work for you. That's cool. But try. See how you feel. One of the things about that, if you do decide to switch to a plant-based diet, you probably will go through a detox process. So you are going to be addicted probably to caffeine, probably to sugar, probably to aspartame, probably to dairy. And so when you cut those out, you will probably find you're going to have some detox symptoms. So sometimes people get headaches, they can get spots come out, because what happens is, as you start to detox, the toxins have to come out somehow. So you might find that process. It's all normal. And this is why doing a transition diet can really help too. So don't be afraid if you get some detox symptoms, but ride that out and then you'll see. But if you, like for me, I abused my body for 28 years of my life. I abused it with alcohol, with drugs, with fast food, junk food, meat, dairy. And so it's taken me a while to undo that. The last thing I want to share with you around this, so we talked about what should I eat. So hopefully that's really clear for you. I really recommend organic, plant-based, whole foods, alkaline foods, non-genetically modified. Now, if you decide you absolutely have to eat meat and you absolutely have to consume dairy, please get organic, grass-fed where possible. Minimize the suffering. Now, the animals still have to die, so they still have to suffer, but minimize the chemicals, because when these animals are kept in these kind of conditions, they get very sick, and so we give them a lot of antibiotics. Most of the antibiotics produced in the world go to animals. That's what we then consume, these hormones, these chemicals, these antibiotics. It's really, really scary. When should you eat? This was a big one for me as a bodybuilder, working on growing my muscles. I was taught you should eat 6 times a day. Every 3 hours you should eat protein. You need to get protein. I was told you need to have, for my goals, I needed to have between 150 and 200 grams of protein every day. So I was having 6 meals a day with 30 grams of protein. Like, that is an insane amount, by the way, if you can imagine that. I was having shakes before bed, shakes as soon as I woke up. It's crazy. There's a whole myth about how much protein we need as well, by the way. Look at some vegan bodybuilders. They don't have hardly as much as what people say, and they are massive. Protein is a very interesting thing. What the Health is a great documentary. It talks all about how you can reverse heart disease, how you can reverse diabetes as well by shifting your diet. So really check that one out. And it talks a lot about this, what we've just been mentioning. So when should you eat? I'm going to tell you something now that's going to absolutely blow your mind. So get ready. Are you ready? This is crazy. About 100 years ago, somebody called Dr. Kellogg's ran a health magazine, and he told people in that health magazine that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. And guess why? Because he owns a cereals company and he wanted people to eat cereals for breakfast. That then became medical fact. For some reason, people started saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Now, what does breakfast mean? Breakfast means break your fast. So overnight while you're sleeping, your body is resting. Your digestive system is resting. And that's a type of what's called fasting. Fasting means going without food for a certain period of time. When you wake up, what you're encouraged by Dr. Kellogg to do is then break your fast as soon as possible, have some kind of sugary cereal made from genetically modified corn. Like, you know it's not good for you. But it makes him lots of money. And you also cover it in cow's milk, right? Which is for baby cows. Which is full of cow growth hormone, which is why we get an estrogen and antibiotics, and that's what we eat. A big bowl of genetically modified corn covered in pus and hormones and antibiotics and grossness. It's crazy when I think about it. There's so many plant-based milk alternatives now. You can get every kind. Anyway, when should you eat? I learned about something that changed my life called fasting. And I actually have a fasting group now. I teach people how to fast. It's on Facebook. You can find it. It's Fasting with Luke Scott. In that, I give lots of advice about something called fasting. Fasting is a great way to heal your body, to allow your body to regenerate. And the way to think about it is that your digestive system is kind of like the engine of your vehicle. It's like the engine of your car. So if you could imagine leaving your car engine on all the time, how long do you think your car would survive for if the engine was constantly running? It would break, right? This is what we do. Most people eat as soon as we wake up, and we eat just before we go to bed, and our body is constantly digesting. It takes your body up to 18 hours to digest meats and certain grains, up to 18 hours to fully digest it. So what does fasting teach us? Well, there's something you can do called intermittent fasting. This is where you give your digestive system, your engine, time to rest. Because when your body is digesting, it uses a lot of energy for that. When your body is not digesting, when there's no food in there, it can use that energy to regenerate itself instead. Your organs aren't made to constantly be working. They're supposed to rest. So with intermittent fasting, what you do is you only eat for an 8-hour window in a day, or you can do it for a 6-hour window or a 4-hour window or even less. So let's say you might choose to eat between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. So no food after 8 p.m. and no food before 12 p.m. During those 8 hours, you can eat whatever you want, but you let your digestive system rest from 8 p.m. to 12 p.m. Or you could do a 6-hour window. You could say you're going to do from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. So you only eat for 6 hours a day. One of the world's strongest men, he only eats one meal a day. So he fasts for 23 hours a day. He eats one meal a day, purely plant-based. It's 1,400 calories. He is huge. He only eats 1,400 calories a day. Sounds crazy, right? Check it out. Search for vegan strongman 1 meal a day. You'll find a video. Crazy. He's written whole books on this. He now teaches this to people. The way we're conditioned to need food is crazy because we're conditioned by the food companies who want us to consume as much as possible. We don't need hardly as much as we think we do to be healthy. We're eating in excess. We're eating junk. So intermittent fasting can be a really great thing for you to try. Now, I also do extended fasts. So I was taught in school that if you don't eat, you die within a week, and if you don't drink, you die within 4 days. That is complete BS. The world record for not eating and not drinking is 19 days. There are people who've done it unofficially for 40 days, 40 days. Myself personally, I've done 4 days with no food and no water, and I was absolutely fine. I was still going to the gym for an hour every day. I was doing a 20-kilometer hike every day. It was part of a fasting retreat. No issues. We don't need to consume as much as we think we do. So you can look this up. There's loads of resources online, or you can join our group about fasting. What does this do? It gets rid of these mental programs we have that say we need to eat all the time. It's an addiction. It's programming. You have to unprogram yourself. You have to create new habits. One of my great friends, he does a 10-day water fast. So 10 days of just drinking water 4 times a year. That resets his whole body. Imagine how much rest your body gets if it doesn't have to eat any food for 10 days. As long as you have some fat stores on your body, you're never going to die. You're not going to be dehydrated. Your body can do what a camel can do. It can convert fat into energy and water. So as long as you have some fat on your body, you're absolutely fine. I know this might sound very out there. So really consider how often you're eating too. A lot of people say don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed. That's a really great suggestion. Fruits take about 3 hours for our body to digest. Grains and certain meats can take up to 18 hours. And if your body is digesting while you're asleep, you don't get as good quality sleep as possible. And this video is all about how to be healthy. So we want to do the things that make our body more healthy. So fasting is a great thing for you to look into. I know this is a lot. I hope this has been expansive for you. In my book, I talk also about optimizing your water, because the water you drink becomes you. You are made mostly of water. So how do you consume the right kinds of water? I can make a whole video about that. Very briefly, drink the highest possible vibration water that you can. Tap water is full of chemicals. Even the best treated tap water is full of chemicals that are not made to be consumed by humans. We can drink it without dying, but it makes us sick. So drink the best quality water that you can. You can get a super water filter that filters everything out. I've made videos about this already. You can go check them out. Search for Luke Scott water. You'll find all the details about that. or you can drop me a message if you want to know too. You also can get most of your water from foods. So I actually don't drink that much water anymore. I use water in cooking, I use water for washing fruits and vegetables, but I mainly get my water from eating fruits. Berries are like 90% water. I think strawberries are like 92% water. Melon, mostly water. Cucumbers, mostly water. Like, you can get water from foods, and it is much better suited for our bodies. But that's a whole different video. Really try and avoid chemicals like fluoride, which is put in water, which is in your toothpaste. Switch to fluoride-free toothpaste. Very important. It's for something called your pineal gland. Fluoride calcifies your pineal gland. So you want to look that up. I've made, again, whole videos about that, and I talk about that in my book. Aspartame. Aspartame is used in so many different foods. Do not eat aspartame. Do not drink aspartame. Check if your product has aspartame in it. That probably means it's processed. You want to avoid processed foods as much as possible. You want to eat natural, close to nature as we can, just like Dr. Sebi teaches, just like Arnold Ehret teaches, as close to nature as we can. Mucusless producing foods, lots of fruit, lots of veggies. If they're starchy veggies, make sure that they're cooked. Organic, non-GMO, alkaline. And if you do those things, you're really going to set yourself up in a great, great way. But remember as well, biodiversity. You are completely different to me on the inside. We have a lot of similarities, but we have some differences too. These things I'm talking about here, this is pretty universal. This will work for most people. Make sure to get advice from the right people. Medical doctors, I have lots of friends who are medical doctors. They only have to do a few hours of nutritional training every year. They don't know about food. Most of them don't. Find a doctor that knows about food. Find a doctor that has studied nutrition. Ask them for advice. Remember as well, the Atkins diet works for some people. That's all meat, low carbs. Vegan diets work for some people, all plants. Like, you have to figure out what works for you and think about it in terms of your health. I also think about it in terms of the ethics. Do I want creatures to have to suffer for me to eat? Of course not. And I also think about it in terms of the environment. I want this to be sustainable. We have 7 billion people on our planet at the moment. By 2050, we're going to have 10 billion people, it's estimated, on our planet. How are we going to feed all of those people? We don't want to chop down more forests to create more pastures for beef. We don't want to do that. I believe that's not the way, and it's not sustainable. Check out those documentaries I mentioned. What the Health, The Game Changers, Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy, so many other great ones you can check out too. Have a look at my blog on my website, which is lukescottofficial.com. There's loads of stuff on my blog as well about all of this. And if you're curious about what I eat in a day, you can check out on my YouTube channel as well, my Luke Scott Official YouTube channel. You can see there are lots of videos about me doing grocery hauls, about what kind of foods I buy from supermarkets, about what I eat in a day. You can see all of these things up there. I'm very transparent and honest. And if you have any questions, do comment them below. Let me know if you enjoyed this. And I'm going to make loads more videos about this because I don't want people to suffer. I don't want my family to be ill. That's not great for them. It's not great for me either, because then you have to be with someone while they're being treated for these illnesses and these diseases. If we can prevent them, if we can get this at the root by being conscious of what we consume, be conscious of everything you put into or onto your body. It will change your life. It will change your family's lives. It will change the whole world. And all you have to do is be more conscious about what you put in your mouth. It sounds simple. I hope you go and you try these new things. I hope you made loads of notes. If not, go back and watch this again. Maybe you'll get things on a deeper level because there's probably some new concepts here you haven't heard before. If you like this, make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow, make sure to like, comment, share this with your friends, tag your friends, send it to them. I want to get this out to as many people as possible. My book is called Find Your Truth. I'll post a link to that below as well. This is a game-changing book. It's about how you can live a connected life filled with purpose. It's 13 processes to teach you how to get connected with yourself, how to really be healthy, happy, connected, filled with purpose. If that sounds good, I'd love for you to read it. Let me know what you think of it as well. And I just want to leave you with this. If you have stuck to the end of this video, if you are watching this right now, that means that you are a game changer. You are on the leading edge of consciousness. You are going to make such a big difference in this world by being an example. So if you're thinking about how can you changing your habits affect the world, that is how change is made. You make a start, you'll inspire your family, your friends, your circle, your network. It creates this ripple effect. Don't underestimate the power that you have, because you are a powerful being. I hope this has served you, and I really look forward to connecting with you more deeply.